Good morning, County Council, to both those who are here in the chamber and those who are online. I am glad that everyone is safe where they are, and we will be able to meet with each other in this way, and hopefully the weather will cooperate with us by the end of the day. So I'd like to call to order this council meeting of November 27th, 2025. At this point in time, as you're able, please join us in the standing and singing of O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please conduct our roll call?
Councillor Mackey,
Present.
Councillor McKay, Councillor Carlton, Councillor Pringle, Councillor McQueen will be joining us in a minute, Councillor Nielsen,
Excited to be here.
Councillor Patterson, Councillor Dickert,
Present.
Councillor Kentner, Councillor Keaveney, Councillor Body,
Present.
Councillor Gregg, Councillor Milne,
Present.
Councillor Dobreen,
Present.
Warden Matrosovs, Councillor Bourdignon,
Present.
Councillor Eccles, Councillor Hutchinson.
Present.
You'll have all members in attendance today. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Let us begin by acknowledging with respect that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the Three Fires, known as the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. We give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the traditional keepers of these lands and waters since time immemorial. In our south lies the traditional territories of the Six Nations of the Grand River and the Haudenosaunee. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and friendship with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. So on our County Council agenda this morning, the next item is number 5, which is any declarations of interest for this agenda for Council. Looking to the screen, looking around the room, I see no hands up, so we will proceed. Next, we will move to the adoption of the minutes. Item 6A, it's recommended that the minutes of County Council meeting and the Committee of the Whole meeting dated November 13th, 2025, and the resolutions contained therein be adopted as presented. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Keaveney and seconded by Councillor Eccles. Any discussion? Okay, see no hands, then I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. The next one is for closed session. So it's recommended that the closed session Committee of the Whole meeting minutes dated November 13th, 2025 be adopted as provided. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Dobreen. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Item 6C is our Long-Term Care Committee of Management, and it is recommended that the Long-Term Care Committee of Management meeting minutes dated November 12th, 2025 be adopted as presented and the following resolutions contained therein be endorsed. Number one, that the report LTCR CM 2425 regarding a long-term care director update be received for information. Number two, that report LTCR CM 2525 regarding long-term care operational report dated August 15th to October 14th be received for information. And third, that report LTCR CM 2625 regarding the proposed 2026 long-term care budget be received. And item four, that the 2026 proposed long-term care budget be presented, be forwarded to County Council as part of the overall corporate budget package for consideration. May I ask for a mover? Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Mackey. Sorry, did I say Patterson? Sorry. Carlton. We'll go with that's right. One of the two Sues. So we'll go with Councillor Carlton, Madam Clerk. That's all right. At least I got the Mackey part right. So and Councillor Mackey have moved and seconded. So it's now on the floor for any discussion. And I believe Jennifer is Director Cornell going to speak to anything, or just if there are questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Director Cornell. It's going to be a bit of a challenge keeping track online this morning. Good morning online, and the floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Madam Warden, and good morning, County Council. I'll just give a high-level update and summary of the meeting. In the Director's Update Report, we had some good discussion, particularly around legislative changes that are coming for resident support assistants or resident support personnel, which we call care support assistants, and the PSW certification changes and the upcoming registration with HISCA-POA, which is the short form for a very lengthy title on a regulatory authority for personal support workers. In the operating report, the staff gave some highlights and information around ministry inspections, had a really good discussion and overview of the Lee Manor mock evacuation experience, and a bit of a shout out and celebration of making the halfway mark in a 3-year project in partnership with RNAO for the clinical pathway best practices. And then, as the warden indicated, the bulk of the meeting was spent discussing the proposed long-term care draft budget with some really good discussion. And I'll leave it there if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking for it. I'll look for any virtual hands that get raised, and I'll look around the room. And I'm not seeing hands go up in either place, Director Cornell, so thank you very much for the extensive details that you provided. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Item 7, we do not have any closed meeting matters nor reports. And item 8, that allows us to go to the bylaws. It's recommended that bylaws 52, 57, 25, 52, 58, 25, 52, 59, 25, 52, 60, 25, and 52, 61, 25 be introduced and taken as read first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the warden and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation and engrossed into the bylaw book. The first one is a bylaw to authorize the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the corporation of the County of Grey and the municipality of Grey Highlands and Bright Shores Health System. The second is a bylaw for an agreement between the Federation of the Canadian Municipalities and Grey County through the Local Leadership for Climate Adaptation Program. And the third one is a bylaw to authorize the warden and clerk to execute an agreement between the Lutheran Social Services and Lutheran Outreach Ministries and the Corporation of the County of Grey for provision of funds through the Canada-Ontario Community Housing Initiatives. And number 5, a bylaw to confirm number 4, a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council. And 5th, a bylaw to approve a delegation of duties policy. So with that, I'll look for a mover and a seconder. I see the deputy warden has moved. And Councillor Pringle has seconded. It's now on the floor for discussion. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Eccles.
Just one comment on the
bylaw 5261-25, the delegation of duties. In the schedule, there's a lot in there. Did we have it highlighted what are being added to, or is this all added to the delegating authority?
Okay, I'll look to the clerk.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Warden. It is a combination of our current delegation of duties bylaw and then some additional new pieces being incorporated in. So it's a bit of a combination. The report that came at the last meeting did highlight some of the major changes. It didn't speak to all of them because many were housekeeping or administrative, but I can send that report out again if it's helpful, so you can see the changes that were more significant.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. That allows us to move on to news and celebrations, and we have three pieces of news to celebrate with staff. And so the first one, I'm going to call upon Director Kevin McNabb of Paramedic Services because we have some exciting presentations to make today.
Good morning, Warden and County Council. Happy to be here today to celebrate with our Grey County paramedics for receiving their exemplary service medal. The Emergency Medical Services Exemplary Service Medal, created on July 7th, 1994, recognizes professionals in the provision of pre-hospital emergency medical services to the public who have performed their duties in an exemplary manner, characterized by good conduct, industry, and efficiency. Recipients must have been employed with emergency medical services on or after October 31st, 1991, and have completed 20 years of exemplary service, including 10 years in their performance of duties involve potential risk. To date, approximately 2,500 medals have been awarded to Ontario's over 9,000 paramedics. This distinction is not simply a longevity of service. It reflects exceptional commitment, professionalism, and meaningful contributions, both in the workplace and within the community. So happy to be here with 4 of the recipients today. First, Paula Tremblay, 20 years of exemplary service. She works in Markdale. She's the co-chair of our Joint Health and Safety Committee. She's done a number of duties, CP, AR supervisor through her years. So congratulations to Paula. Joe Draper on the far right here. He's a supervisor with us, works out of Owen Sound. He does a number of duties, but he does spend a lot of time coordinating our honor guard and all our special events. Jessica Robb, she's our Deputy Chief of Operations. She came to us and with Wellness and Support Deputy Chief, then developed a number of programs to support our paramedics within the service. And not able to join us today for 20 years is Naomi Liberance. She's a full-time paramedic in Bruce County, part-time with us. And she's works throughout the county on multiple different bases. And special honor here today doesn't often reach in this field. It is a difficult job, and to say we have somebody here that's worked 40 years in service deserves special recognition. Leo, he's worked in Bruce County and Grey for a number of years. He is retired, but he still comes back and participates in our honor guard. And so happy to have Leo here. So thank you. So congratulations to everybody, and so happy for their honor. So.
For those of you that might not have heard, Leo of 40 years service just shared that he started 40 years ago as an ambulance driver and can't believe all the kinds of changes that have come today and the kind of complexities that go with the role as you've developed and as you've seen your whole work environment change in order to be able to best deliver needs to the individuals who need you. So it is phenomenal. And we thank all of you for your 20 years and your 40 years service. And I will note too that there are family members here today that have come to celebrate you through the snow. That's wonderful to hear. We're very appreciative that you've been able to take time out today to come to council, and we celebrate your accomplishments. So with that, we will move on to another piece of good news. We're going to step a little bit into the youth mode now at this point in time to talk about some up and coming leaders that we have entertained through the Youth Climate Action Conference. It was held again. It is such a tradition. I was so pleased to be able to be there in the morning. Fantastic, fantastic introduction. The top-notch agenda program that was planned. These are grade 5 students that are coming from all over the county, coming from everywhere from different schools, selected by their schools to come with their teachers and to participate and get to know others in other schools, which I think is a fantastic. It's so nice when somebody's interested in something like climate change and what they can do to help and how they can be a young leader. It's so empowering for them to come to a room that is just full of young people their age, just like them, from right across the county, who also want to do the same kind of thing. It was an incredible experience as well, because for the first time, because of the Youth Climate Action Fund, we were able to have some young adult leaders too. So there are high school students there that had come for the day who might have actually been part of the program earlier, but nonetheless had a passion from wherever they had started. I asked them, I had a lunch with them. They sat with me and had lunch, and I asked each and every one of these young adult leaders what it was that drew them to want to apply to be part of this program. And every answer was different. It was everything from I used to help my grandmother with plant her garden, and so I thought a community garden would be a good idea, to I'm really worried about climate change and I'm worried about what the planet's going to look like, and this was one way I could help. Every answer was different about what it was that drew them to be there and what models those young adults are for those grade 5s who are there, seeing that there is a way to participate and to do something together collectively. That, of course, doesn't happen without the true support and dedication of the staff that we have with our sustainability staff here, as well as all of the community partners. Definitely, I know when you speak, you're going to talk about all the other people involved that help make this happen each and every year. So with that, I would like to bring up Megan and Linda, if you would like to come and tell us a little bit more about the details about this year's event.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs. So as the warden shared, this was our 4th annual Youth Climate Action Conference. It was hosted in Owen Sound at the Bayshore Community Center, but really was a cross-county event. We were lucky to host with a variety of partners, including the 2 school boards, along with various nonprofit organizations. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the conference overall, and then Megan's going to tell you some of the specifics of the day. So by the numbers, there were 24 schools from across Grey and Bruce who participated. Each school sent 5 elementary age students. They had to apply to attend. This is a hot ticket in the, the elementary schools of our region. 125 students, more than 125 students joined us to really learn about sustainability, but also leadership. This really is a leadership development program that uses sustainability, climate action, and environmentalism as the hook. There were 27 educators who also received a full day of professional development. So this is an opportunity for them to hone their skills, to learn about programs and supports available to them to continue this kind of leadership and sustainability work in the classroom. That's supported by a national nonprofit called Learning for a Sustainable Future. As the warden mentioned, there were also some high school students there to act as role models. And this year, an overwhelming level of community support with over 54 volunteers coming to spend the day doing everything from handing out pizza to facilitating workshops on solar power. So really an opportunity for all ages to get involved in this work. The power of partnership, there's what happens in the day, which is really quite remarkable. But there's also the partnerships and the resource leveraging that this event catalyzes. There's over 21 organizations working together on this. It started as a grassroots initiative from a local resident, and over the last 3 iterations has really grown to something that national organizations are holding up and saying, this is our flagship event of the year. What is happening in Grey County is remarkable. There's over $40,000 of external funding leveraged from a variety of funders and partners. And this year we also were very lucky to have a lot of engagement from Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. The day opened with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation drummers and a land blessing. And then there were also remarks from the Saugeen First Nation Chief Conrad Ritchie and the acting chief of the Chippewas and Nawash, Jessica Kashing Martin. So really trying to bring that Indigenous and reconciliation piece into sustainability as well. So with that, I will hand things over to Megan to tell you a little bit more about the highlights.
Thanks, Linda. So speaking of partnership, I just wanted to highlight a few kind of new and improved elements for the 2025 conference, and as a result of some really great collaborations. So thanks to the City of Owen Sound, we had a perfect venue for the number of attendees that allowed for both indoor and outdoor sessions, and we had a beautiful day. Thanks to student feedback and through a youth advisory group, students actually joined sessions ahead of the conference to kind of give input on what worked well last year. And then we were able to incorporate that input this year to really make for really more engaging and relevant sessions. As Linda mentioned, thanks to Saugeen Ojibwe Nation Environment Office staff, we were able to really get their input into the programming, which they described as kind of an unprecedented level of engagement. Thanks to our network of community volunteers, each school is matched with a community mentor to help support their action projects after the conference. And as Warden Matrosov mentioned, with a partnership with the Town of Blue Mountains Youth Climate Action Fund, we were able to bring those high school student leaders as well. Last year, many of the action projects were related to tree planting and naturalization. So we decided to have a dedicated workshop on how to plan, plant, and steward a planting project. And thanks to several partners and permission from the city, we planted a mini forest of 160 trees and shrubs on site between the Bayshore and the boat launch. Even more important than what happens at the conference is what happens after. So the conference is really a launching point, giving the students the knowledge, skills, and inspiration to implement action projects in their schools and communities. We know that youth are experiencing quite a bit of climate anxiety, and we know that participating in these tangible action projects help. And we can see that from the reports that we're getting back from their teachers following the projects. This past May, each school submitted a final report on their action projects from last year. So although we don't have those reports yet for this year's conference, we have last year's numbers. And these numbers really demonstrate the ripple effect and are a testament to the impact. And now with Rob's assistance, we're just going to share just a quick 1-minute highlight reel just to give you a sense of the day. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. I can see that video being an excellent tool for recruiting the next year. And with that, we also have some good news also coming about National Housing Day. And to that, I will look to Director Shaw online. Good morning.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Good morning, County Council. November 22nd was National Housing Day. It's a day dedicated to raising awareness about the importance of safe and affordable housing for all Canadians. It serves as a reminder of the ongoing housing crisis in Canada and the need for collaborative efforts to ensure that everyone has a place to call home. It is also time to reflect on what is being accomplished in our community and recognize the existing efforts for affordable housing and the people that it assists. In celebration, staff attended all of our buildings and set up hot chocolate stands for residents to enjoy and talk about what affordable housing means to them. I'd like to thank staff for all that they do every day to keep our buildings clean and safe, provide tenants with supports, keep our office running and inquiries answered, and provide services to people experiencing homelessness. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So with that, then that concludes the staff announcements that we have. So next I'll look to County Council members for any news they wish to share. We'll start with Councillor Keaveney. Oh.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs, and good morning, everyone. Next weekend, I know I've mentioned this before, is our Christmas on the Bay from December 4th to the 7th with our Kinsman Santa Claus Parade on December the 6th, and our Golden Airs Ladies Concert on the 7th at the United Church at 2 o'clock. But I also wanted to focus on Thursday. So next Thursday, December the 4th, is our second annual Spirit of Inclusion concert. This one is entitled Joy and Harmony. Performers are coming from Reach, Events for Life, Dancing with Parkinson's, and the Roxy Star Company. And anyone who saw this last year, there wasn't a dry eye on the house. It was so touching. So I strongly encourage anyone who can to come and take in that concert. And also on the Sunday at Meaford Hall, there's going to be a showing of One Magic Christmas, which is a movie that was filmed in Meaford 40 years ago. So this is the 40th anniversary, and it was filmed in the old Foodland and the Bank of Montreal and so on in Meaford. So that's also a special event. So lots to do in Meaford next weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. And other news, we'll go to Councillor Carleton.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs. Tomorrow night, Friday, November 28th, starting at 6 o'clock at Shallow Lake Community Center, is Sparkle and Skate. So we have two large trees out front that will get lit up. There are vendors in the upstairs and from Georgian Bluffs, so there'll be lots of things on sale. There's the minor hockey has the food booth running, and there will be the opportunity to skate with your family. So that starts at 6 o'clock tomorrow night.
Excellent. Thank you. And I'll keep an eye out for any hands raised online. I'll just look to those that are in person if there are any other news to share. Okay. Oh, we'll go to Councillor Eccles and then I'll go to anyone online.
There is numerous tree lightings in the municipality of West Grey, starting, yes, this weekend, in Elmwood and Ayton. You may have to speed to get to both of them. One's at 5:30 and one's at 6 o'clock. So depending on how quickly the lights get on, and you can get from Elmwood to Ayton. In the following weekend, following Thursday, December 4th, is tree lighting in Durham. And then the Santa Claus Parade is on Saturday at noon, hosted by our firefighters. And then on Sunday, the evening parade in Newstead, December the 7th. They have an evening parade, so all the lights are sparkling and whatnot, and then the tree lighting in front of the Newstead Community Center after the parade. So if you haven't got Christmas out, Miss Keaveney and Meaford, come on down and share some time in West Gray as well too. Thank you.
And I think there'll be plenty of snow to share all the way around as well. So many choices. We'll go to, I'll go online, then I'll go to Councillor Bourdignon first and then to Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, Madam Warden, through you to County Council. If you feel like traveling just a little further east, we have a couple events coming up for the first 2 weekends of December. Of course, we start with Clarksburg. We have the Christmas stroll on Friday, December 5th, 5 till 8 with the tree lighting at the St. George's at 8:30, and then the Christmas market the next day. The following week, we have our own warden acting as our mayor, lighting the tree again at for Old Fashioned Christmas in downtown Thornburg, where we do close the street and have all the shops open, and just it's a great family atmosphere to come out for that. That's on the following Saturday. And then I believe on the Sunday there is Christmas cheer at the local Legion in downtown Clarksburg. So lots going on over the next couple of weeks as we build up to the holiday season.
Thank you. Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you very much, Warden Matrosoff. I just wanted to shout out to a local organization in Grey Highlands, the Hanley Institute. Last Thursday, it was the recipient of the Peace Medal from the YMCA, and it was a pleasure to be there in attendance. As the Hanley Institute was awarded that. My children, my wife, and myself all in some way or another volunteer and participate with the Hanley Institute, and it's a pleasure to have that organization in Grey Highlands and in Flesherton servicing all the youth. So I just wanted to give them a big shout out and a big hug.
Thank you. And we'll go to the Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden. And I just wanted to relate that if you want to hear a reading of the Christmas Carol, at the Egremont Optimist Club, the readings will take place on the 5th and 6th of December. That's the Friday night and Saturday night. And if you want to hear a really good rendition of Jacob Marley, you might want to come and watch, because I'm going to be doing that part. Scrooge! Enough said. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll cut your mic off at this point. And we'll go to Councillor McQueen and then back over to Councillor Carlton.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Good morning, County Council. Three Santa Claus parades are going to be happening in Grey Highlands. First Friday night in Markdale. It's going to be an evening parade. It starts at 6 o'clock. Singhampton is going to have their evening parade in Farmers Market 5:30 in Singhampton, which is a sort of a coalition between Grey Highlands and Clearview. Grey and Simcoe getting together, and ends up at the fire hall for hot chocolate and hot dogs. And then on Sunday, the 7th of December, the Kinsmen and Feversham will be having their parade at 10 o'clock. So lots of things. Lots of Santa Clauses being busy throughout Grey County.
Thank you, Warden. I realized that I missed 2 events that'll take place before our next county council meeting. So December 6th, Cobble Beach has a tree lighting. They will have horse-drawn rides, wagon rides, and hot chocolate on hand for everyone, starting at 6 o'clock, I believe. And downtown Shallow Lake will have Mingle and Jingle with the residents and the businesses of Shallow Lake getting together, with Santa arriving later in the evening. So that'll be December 6th.
Thank you. Anything else? Looks like we've got it all. Okay, so with that then, in order to close off this meeting, then I'll make a call out for a motion to adjourn. May I ask for a mover? Moved by Councillor McQueen, seconded by Councillor Keaveney. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that motion is carried. We'll give a moment to switch the technology over to Committee of the Whole. Okay, so I'd like to call to order this Committee of the Whole meeting of November 27th, 2025. At this point in time on this agenda, I'll put out a call for any declarations of interest. Seeing no hands in the chamber or online, we'll go to business arising for minutes. Seeing nothing, we'll go to, we do not have any delegations scheduled today. And next we will move on to item 5, which is to determine any items for separate discussion. So if we look at the consent agenda, we have 4 different reports listed under 6. Are there any that council member or committee of the whole member would like to pull for separate discussion? Okay, yes, Councillor McKay.
Yeah, I wonder if we could discuss more on 6D.
6B is in Bob. D is in dog. Dog. Okay, David, thank you. D is in David. Okay, so 6D we will pull for separate discussion. And anything else? Okay, I'm not seeing any further hands then. So it is recommended. Item 6, it's recommended that the following consent agenda items be received and that staff be authorized to take the actions necessary to give effect to the recommendations and staff reports, and that the correspondence be supported and received for information as recommended in the consent agenda. This is for items 6A, B, and C. D will be for further discussion. So may I ask for a mover? Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Dobreen. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, so we'll go to the items listed in 7 before we return back to 6D. So we'll go to 7A. It's recommended that the Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting minutes dated November 6, 2026, 2025, that should be adopted as presented, and the following resolutions therein be endorsed: that the report EDTC PEDAC 1325 regarding the Economic Development, Tourism and Culture Strategic Progress Report, November 2025, be received for information. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Pringle. It's now on the floor for discussion, so I'll call up Director Myers.
Thank you, through you, Madam Warden. I'm going to start us off, and then Scott is going to finish up with a conversation about Bill 60. I'm not touching that one. So we had another great Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting. It was really good, and I appreciate that it says 2026 in the minutes, because I wrote this entire report as 2026 because we're so embedded in thinking of next year at this point in time. But this really was our final report to PDAC on progress from 2025. There will be another annual report. So our second annual report will come to you in January, February of next year to talk about everything from January through December. But this one goes from August to November. And it really was focused on our continued drive towards the progress around the theme of study in year 2 of master plan delivery. So since August, our team has been really focused on that study theme, understanding consumer behavior, evaluating site-specific readiness, analyzing broader provincial and national trends, and trialing new program offerings. We also talked a little bit about some of the lean work that our department has been doing, and we did our very first EDTC Team Building and Development Day, which we hosted as a grateful gathering. And we were on a bus and we toured South Grey. We will hit North Grey next year, but it was a really great opportunity to get out, get our feet on the ground, go see all the different elements of our department as a broader team, and just celebrate together. So that was wonderful. We also did another training in November on lean. So we've now done 4 different, buckets of lean training, which we're getting more excited about every time we go down this path. And we're starting to use that work already, which is really exciting. So we did complete all of our job reviews and restructurings underway so that we can achieve that highest and best value for human resources. And that's something that we talked about yesterday in the Budget and Finance Committee, and we'll talk about again when we go through budget in December. But the most notable improvements have been that we're really coming together to find more alignment right across the department, efficiencies, and cross-departmental collaboration. So that's making the best time of our staff time and resources. In terms of priority 1, leadership and collaboration, we hosted another successful economic development leadership forum. This was the largest one yet, the most energy in the room. I'm still getting my voice back from yelling over that crowd of more than 90 people who were very excited and engaged. So it's really nice to see this continue, the progress continue, the conversations, the education and training where we can all come together and share in that mindset to grow, to ask questions, and to not be afraid to challenge one another. I think that's a really positive thing coming out of these events. And the fact that they now include all of senior management teams as well from each municipality is important. So we're all speaking the same language, because economic development doesn't stop at an economic development title. It hits every single one of us. The Team Gray MOU, that is a project that has been on my plate, and it will be coming to you next month as well. That has gone through a lot of conversation with your CAOs, with your economic development staff, multiple rounds of engagement. So we think that we're at a point now where we've got a good draft to bring forward and present to you. And that really is meant to kind of hone our skills working collaboratively. So put something on paper that gives us a commitment as the county to each of your municipalities and your municipalities to the county, and how we're going to do economic development and investment readiness together. So there will be a fulsome report coming forward in a couple of weeks. We looked at business retention and expansion, talked about sector scans and the ongoing uncertainty around tariffs, how difficult that is on our businesses. The one thing that we will highlight, and we did talk about it then, we're not hearing the same kind of impact as other areas because we are a diversified economy. That is something that all of our teams locally in your municipalities and at the county have strived for, to make sure we don't have all of our eggs in one bucket. So even though there is absolutely uncertainty out there, we just want to know where is it going to land so that people can make decisions, those long-term investment decisions, hiring decisions around workforce, all of those pieces. That's where we're seeing the greatest uncertainty for tariffs. Our work with Georgian College is continuing. We had a great experience at AMO. I think that really landed well with the Ministry of Colleges, Universities, Research, Excellence, and Security. It's a long name for ministry, but they absolutely understand where we're coming from, the importance of our rural serving campuses, and what that means for the region when we have really truly fine-tuned exactly what programs are going to be delivered, because that's what's needed here in this region. From the Business Enterprise Center, Courtney provided a presentation on the work to date and talked about the trends that we're seeing in those couple of months. She had 134 inquiries, 44 consultations were conducted. There were many workshops. There's a lot going on in the small business world. There's a lot of interest. It absolutely ebbs and flows. And there seems to be a trend now going towards that, not necessarily a second career, but what can you do on the side, a side hustle as the economy tightens? That has been where we have seen some shifts happening. But the interest does not stop, and bricks and mortar again is becoming more popular. So that is a positive. With Sydenham campus, we highlighted that we had in the month of September, more than 4,000 people came through that door. So it is going very, very well. A couple of large scale events, there were 80 rentals during that period, and the makerspace has also exceeded 100 members. So that was the goal when they launched within the first year. It was a year and I think 2 months, and they made it to 100 members, which is phenomenal. So we're very proud of the work they're doing. Kalina also took us through a long conversation about data, because that was a question that we had at the last PDAC meeting. So we came back with something a little bit more fulsome to talk about where are we focusing on in terms of those KPIs. Because really at the end of the day, we have the opportunity to decide, what do we want to track? What actually matters to us in the work that we're trying to advance? And the focus around those KPIs was website engagement, brand awareness, visitor and business support, and the storytelling impact. So there's lots of pages of details, if you want, in the report that you can take a look at. But all that to say, we've definitely seen dips in some areas because we're trialing new things. We've seen incredible and explosive growth in others. So that's why we continue to study and understand what is going to land. We also shared the new look of the Visit Gray website, which is very exciting. It's been 10 years that we've had the same Visit Gray website, the same brand. We thought it was time for a refresh. So Gather is now the new look and feel of Visit Gray as a whole. And finally, turning to Gray Roots, we talked about leadership and collaboration in terms of the expert stewards. We have officially launched the Gray Gallery, which has been years in the making. We received over $355,000 in federal support to make that project happen. We have set ourselves up for the long term. The way that it has been designed gives us the ability to change the look, the feel, the design, the size and scope without having to rebuild anything. So that's what we were looking for, was a sustainable build. And what that did was transition us from the old Gray Gallery had 94 artifacts. Now we have 304 artifacts in there. So the intent is to get more out to the public instead of having it in the back of the house, where it's being protected, but now it can be a story around it and we can learn more about Gray. We also talked about the partnership with the corporation as a whole and hosting the very first Truth and Reconciliation Day for staff at Gray Roots, which was phenomenal. And we look forward to building on that event as we go forward. And then just the highlight around that lean project that we did in the summer for the village and the volunteer impact. We had over 1,100 hours, so 360 volunteer shifts over the course of the summer, which was averaging 40 shifts per week. And the visitation impact, we had more than 9,200 visitors through Morriston, and 5,414 visitors participated in the engagement activities, more than half of them actually hands-on. So we know that we've hit the mark and we look forward to continuing that next year. So as we continue to prioritize our programming and operations review, we're looking at how we do exhibits. We're looking at how we do events to make sure that we are doing the best that we can with fewer resources, because we don't always need to go big to have a good impact. So that has been a real shift and a great roundtable to end out that meeting, listening to success stories from Georgian College and from others, and just sharing initiatives for awareness. So I will end it there and turn it over to Scott to talk about Bill 60.
All right, thanks, Savannah. Good morning, Warden Mattress and members of council. I realize council has stopped believing me when I say this, but I promise I will keep this one brief. I mean it this time. So at PDAC, we did have the Bill 60 presentation, which touched on the potential changes both in the planning sphere, the transportation sphere, and the housing sphere. Council should be well aware of this because we had a similar presentation on November the 13th. At the committee of the whole meeting. And just as a bit of an update on Bill 60, on November 24th, so Monday of this week, the province, Bill 60 did receive third reading. So we haven't been able to find a final version of the bill yet to see if there was anything that was changed from the initial draft that was released, but we are actively monitoring that. As you may be aware, if you were scanning your inboxes late Saturday afternoon, the county was able to submit comments. So thank you for council's support in submitting comments to the province in that regard. And some of the comments we submitted were on the legislative changes in Bill 60 itself, and some of the comments were on some of the related consultations. So for some of those related consultations, there may still be avenues to go back and forth with the province and put forward Gray's point of view there with respect to those potential impacts, both positive and potentially negative on the county and the member municipalities. So with that, turn it back to you, Madam Warden, and be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Okay, I'll look online and I will look over here. And I'm actually not seeing questions come forward. So thank you very much for providing that information. It has been moved and seconded. We've also heard further verbal updates. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Next, we'll move on to item 7B. It's recommended that report PDR CW 6425 is received and that a copy of this report be shared to the member municipalities within Grey County and with MPs, MPPs for Grey, Bruce, Owen Sound, and Simcoe Grey for information purposes. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Nielsen and seconded by Councillor Dobreen. It's now on the floor for discussion. And with that, then I will invite our senior policy planner, Liz Buckton, to come and speak to it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Great to be here today. We'll just wait to get the presentation ordered there. It's here. Thank you very much. Okay, minor technical difficulties, but we're on. We're ready to go. So thank you so much. Really glad to be here today. A little bit of a snowy day, but glad to make the trip over from Mayford, where I am, and my neighbor, Councillor Kentner, has also made the trip, so that's good. We're in sync. So today I wanted to speak through the report that has been shared within the package. This does offer an update regarding the Housing Action Plan and various actions that have been happening under that portfolio over the past year. And just for reference here, have noted the recommendation of that report, which is that it be received for information, and as noted that we will share that on to the member municipalities and the MPs and MPPs for their information as well. So my presentation will follow fairly closely in terms of the structure of the report. Firstly, I guess what I just wanted to offer is just a little bit of background information to say how we got here. So that Housing Action Plan of the county was endorsed by County Council in August of 2023. There has been ongoing action by both county and local staff on that variety of actions since that time. And an update report was offered in October of 2024, so last fall in that regard. And I would just further identify here for those that may not be familiar, we did also have a report just back in September relating to some of the elements under the Housing Action Plan relating to surplus lands. And so the report offered within the package, it's not a fulsome comprehensive report. We are looking at certain elements. And so I just suggest within and here as well, that to get that most fulsome picture of all of the various elements of work underway, I would refer the reader to those other reports that are linked as well. So within the report offered within the package, we have split that out into two sections, roughly in half. So the first focus of the first half of the report is regarding some select ongoing items that we've highlighted for an update. The second half of that report speaks to some of the more abstract actions that are identified within the Housing Action Plan. So they're not quite as concrete in terms of the specific things to be done. And those relate to nonprofit sector capacity building, as well as exploration of innovative financial tools. And so I think with planning, we're always kind of living in two time spaces. So we're in the current moment, delivering tasks and actions. And we're also have an eye ahead to the future and what opportunities might be there and how we position ourselves for those. So these two sections of the report speak a little bit along those lines. So what's going on now and where do we see us going in the future potentially as well. And I guess what I would further say is just around that abstract piece. You know, I think what is abstract today potentially is what is foundational tomorrow. So, you know, I do think this is important work and I'm really excited to get to talk about some of it today. So in that first half of the report, I've just really provided a brief update regarding each of the sections we spoke to. So firstly, 1.1 regarding surplus lands, staff just offered that prior report has been brought forward. If you recall, that report was relating to some potentially surplus properties that the county owns in Markdale and in Durham, and some ongoing work that we hope to do continuing into 2026 for those lands. So we have linked that report for reference if anyone would like a bit of a refresher on that one. With respect to item 1.2, so enhanced data collection and sharing. It's just a little square on the slide, but it's actually a whole heck of a lot of work that goes in behind that. So what we've highlighted there is that there is an in-process growth management strategy underway. And I think Scott and I will likely be back to next council to provide some additional information regarding that process. But that is through that process, we will be developing updated population, household, and employment forecast figures for the county through 2051. And that underpins a lot of our long-term planning and municipal planning and infrastructure planning. So that's an important process. Following that, the intention is to complete a housing need assessment on a regional basis. So looking and pulling from some of the data from the growth management around unit demand, taking stock of existing housing resources that are available and doing some gap analysis around what additional built form housing might be needed for the go forward. And data collection has begun on that, and we speak to that a little bit in the report, some of the initial gathering that's happened. And then there is just, we've highlighted that there is ongoing discussion regarding housing related definitions, data, targets, and monitoring metrics. That discussion is happening around the staff affordable housing senior practice table. And I think that that will prepare us as we move towards that housing need assessment, because I'd like to really present that information in a very tangible way that we can all move forward. So we've got clear definitions and clear data metrics to help guide us in monitoring our progress as we go. With respect to section 1.3 of the report, that focused on the Grey County Housing Fund. And so many thanks to our teammates in the housing department who helped with populating this section of the report. Within this section, we do offer some update regarding the county's levy supported housing fund, as has provided just shy of $6 billion in funding for a variety of affordable, supportive, and transitional housing projects over the past 4 years. And those have been itemized within the report by housing staff for us. They further highlight that there are some additional projects that are waiting in the wings for further funding, both locally and federally. And they additionally highlight that the Grey County's housing and homelessness plan, which is prescribed and required by the province, will be due in May 2026, so a revision is ongoing with respect to that plan. Regarding item 1.4, community improvement plans. So within the report, staff outlined that those plans are in place for the majority of member municipalities now at this time. And we do have a number of municipalities starting into an update process for those plans. County staff are encouraging generally consideration of an affordable / housing / conversion type of programs at the discretion of the local municipalities. And just to support that, we have had some early kind of cross-pollination conversation, just opening up the idea that we could be working a little bit together. And we've had some early discussion with the economic development local developers table as well, just with respect to that. So I think we'll likely be getting together in January for some further conversation about how we might work together on those updates and streamline. You may recall from prior reports, one of the things that we had been interested in learning more about was the potential to have a CIP at the county level as well. And so we had set out to approach the ministry staff and have had some back and forth with them around process. But then that item has subsequently been included within Bill 60. And so as Scott noted, we are monitoring the status there. But I think if that element of the bill has progressed as it was written into the draft, then that potential appears to exist or will shortly, that we could further consider how we might target or prepare a CIP for the county as well. It's handy that these two items are on the slide together, because I just want to plant the idea that we've got a couple of different tools here potentially at our disposal. And so I think there could certainly be some further conversation regarding further targeting and how those might be aligned to cover a greater breadth of projects to support them. Currently, the Housing Fund is largely tooled towards most vulnerable populations, but we do understand that there is a range of affordability that is perhaps not well represented in our housing stock. And so perhaps the CIP might offer us further opportunity in that regard as well. Okay, and then finally, for that first half of the report, we've just spoken at a high level to ongoing work regarding planning documents and processes. And so we've offered a sample selection of the type of work that's been happening. And so I think the folks around this table would be quite familiar with that. And you've seen those documents and bylaws coming across your desk locally as well. But largely that has involved updates to our various planning documents. We've certainly seen folks at the local level looking to include ARU, additional residential unit policies and permissions, addressing short-term accommodation permissions and regulatory frameworks to get a good balance there. Articulating housing-related goals and objectives and targets, looking at height and density and intensification policies, and then creation of localized work plans to build upon what's included within the county housing plan. And so if municipalities are looking to further do that work, develop those work plans, I just would say that county staff are happy to have a conversation regarding the housing action plan and perhaps what might make sense for inclusion there. Okay. So I think we step into the second half of the report at this point in the presentation. And so, as noted earlier in the presentation, the Housing Action Plan does include some expressed intent around nonprofit sector capacity building. I think a lot of the existing affordable housing across Canada was actually created by that sector or in partnership with that sector. And so I think they are a very important partner as it comes to affordable housing, community housing supply. A few thoughts that we shared in the report. So firstly, I think that sector building work is intended to go above and beyond and build from the ongoing work with the nonprofit partners that is already underway by the Housing Department and Service Manager. The Housing Action Plan does identify that there are some things that the municipal sector may not be ideally positioned, resourced, or tooled to do. And so it orients Grey County as a lead organization, but really does encourage community partners of all types, all of the sectors, to be working together towards collective housing goals. And I think really that sector capacity building would be intended to support that work by community partners towards collective benefit. So within that report, we do outline ongoing networking and co-learning work and an emerging whole community approach framing for collaboration. We speak to community incubation of housing system components to support affordable housing creation, discuss a little bit of the emerging sector skills building efforts that are in place in Ontario, and then speak a little bit to scale considerations for affordable and non-market housing, speaking to some of the grant and finance programs that are available or pending relating to that. And I'll highlight a few things from that section in the next slides. I guess what I would say, so there's some thanks to go around here. So with respect to this next slide, I'll just extend my thanks to the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay. They have created the space for a lot of the learning and discussion to happen over the past years. And this work reflects work coming from that table together with municipal staff and council members who are often attending those meetings as well. So the whole community approach, if you've had a presentation at your local council by myself and Marilyn Struthers from the Institute, this may sound familiar, but I think we've been working to refine the wording and understandings here. And so we just highlight the whole community approach as a framing for how we might work together, and highlighting certain areas of focus for local government sector as well as for community partners. And so on the local government focus side, what that learning and networked group has determined is really, we would be looking to local government to target the policy permissions and incentives towards affordable and non-market housing to fill those gaps in our supply. We would be looking at establishing and maintaining good regional communication. And I think around that table, there is interest what that could look like. Could that be, for example, a future coordination table on a regional basis to do that work? Local government focus, again, would also be focused around municipal engagement, around community wealth and social finance approaches. And so I think it's a little out of our direct wheelhouse, but it certainly is adjacent. And I'll speak a little bit about where that sector is going. This really speaks to the idea that municipalities would be engaged in learning about these emerging techniques and determining how we might partner or bring some of them into our organizations. And then the development of a cohesive regional perspective on workforce housing and associated needs and approaches. And so I think there, we've certainly had lots of discussion around workforce housing, and I know pre-pandemic there have been some reports by others, the Mountain Village Association, for example. I think this is emerging as one of those things where we maybe have some further work to articulate how we envision that flowing, and then our community partners can join us in that work with a little more clarity. On the community side, we are looking at community partners focused around building of local organizations and functions to support affordable housing at greater scale. And looking at examples from across Canada, we are seeing emerging vehicles such as land trusts and community development corporations to support in that work. Again, municipalities are not always resourced or tooled to do that work, and so those partners could assist. Linking of non-market housing creators via community of practice, and so that is in place, and we do have those folks already connecting through some of those institute tables. support for local citizens groups to support affordable housing creation and municipal efforts. So offering some education. And we have seen some spin-off interest in some of the local communities around that institute table. And I think those folks are helping to encourage that change in consideration at the local level as well. We want to make sure, I think, that folks are informed, and so we're bringing good information and asking for reasonable things as well around those tables. So offering that support, I think, is important. And then preparation of a regional community wealth and social finance strategy. So this is work that the Institute has on the horizon. And I think we could certainly be participating in some of those conversations as they further explore how can we lend, spend, and invest for greatest community benefit. And what I just noted in the report is that, I think following the housing need assessment, it would be reasonable for us to consider what of these items perhaps could be embedded within the housing action plan more formally at the top. So some further discussion to come in that regard. This one here, and so perhaps you've seen this out in the world, but if not, I would be happy to be the first one to tell you that we have seen a community partner really take up that opportunity to engage. And so we have seen just last week an announcement by Community Foundation Grey Bruce. They are working now to incubate Grey Bruce Community Development Corporation. And they have, and I've outlined in the report, what they envision that CDC could do. So they are looking at some of that mentorship for community housing projects, exploring social finance tools like community bonds, initiating development and protection of affordable housing in Grey Bruce in a non-competitive manner, and creating that space for further collaboration. And so, I wanted to highlight that as an example, and thanks so much to Stuart Reed, their executive director, for working with me to coordinate the timing on this so that we can make sure to share this good information through this report without stealing their thunder for the announcement last week. And what I would just highlight here is that they have hired a strategic initiatives consultant on housing. This individual does have experience with community bonds and has worked with Habitat in Guelph previously in setting up their program. So we're bringing some of these new skills into the area through this move. They'll start slow and small and seek to grow sustainably and organically, but we've got some help in terms of looking at that housing creation. Okay, and then further with respect to the nonprofit sector, it's kind of an evolution of that conversation, is achieving scale for housing creation. And so we've included a section of the report around this. What I would note is that, so we are just kind of watching the rollout of the Build Canada Homes program at the federal level. So they're changing approach under this new government with respect to how funding opportunities will be provided for housing creation, affordable housing creation. Looking at their initial documents and the sounding guide that they've shared, we do understand that there is their intention to gradually move to a system where they are granting for large-scale projects or portfolios of projects as opposed to individual one-off applications. And so I think, again, just looking with an eye to the future of how might we need to position ourselves to engage with these funding opportunities on the go forward, I think we're recognizing that there may be some necessity for like an amalgamation or working together to agglomerate some of those projects under one portfolio or a series of projects under one application. And so I think really just kind of seeing that idea here that there will be some further conversations happen around that. We're not 100% sure how that funding will evolve, but actually just in coordination with the National Housing Day, they have just now, this past weekend, released the investment policy framework for Build Canada Homes. So I think everyone's just digesting that at this moment in time. It does too speak to that gradual transition towards scale. So just a going consideration for us. And we do also just within that section of the report speak a little bit to the existing provincial funding opportunities as well. There has been some advocacy work as they are considering how those might be retooled to better serve areas in rural Ontario like ours. So we'll see where that goes. Okay, and then finally, just the second component of that last half of the report speaks to finance innovation for affordable housing. Lost my notes. There we go. So with respect to this section of the report, we really just wanted to kind of highlight some of the work that is happening within the sector across Canada. So this is homework, if we will, to poke around on some of those linked resources to get a flavor of what is happening kind of on that learning edge of social finance innovation. And what we're seeing and what's been included within that report is a highlight on some of those smaller financial opportunities. So community bond initiatives, and I've highlighted a Simcoe example, Redwood Park Communities, as one with an open bond campaign. I had an opportunity to sit with their fund manager and hear about how they've actually structured that campaign and the different tranches within the bond offering and the risk profiles and the management. And it's quite interesting. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there to set those up. And we're seeing that happen again across Canada. In addition to those smaller scale project specific tools, we're also seeing the establishment of larger revolving funds that are targeted towards housing as well. And so I've highlighted the Catch Fund, which grew from an innovation lab in Hamilton around their LRT expansion, and really looks at bringing together different types of capital and investors to create a revolving fund that can create seed funding and bridge financing for community housing creators. And I think with this one, again, looking out into the horizon and what's possible, we do have a lot of work happening around the energy frontier, various institutional industrial partners with respect to that. I know certainly Bruce County is thinking about the housing issues as well, and now we have this local CDC. And so I could envision this being something potentially in our future, maybe not right away, but longer term in terms of innovation. So just again, trying to see those ideas to bring everybody along with that learning. So I'll leave it there today. Certainly happy to speak to any questions that may arise, and really happy to do all of this additional learning that will be coming along outcomes of all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lots in the report and also with what you've just provided for us verbally. So I'll just wait till the virtual members come back on my screen here and we'll open it up for questions. We'll begin with the Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and thank you, Liz, for the report and the update. I concur with Councillor Boddy that we don't toot our own horn enough about the work that is being done and potentially being done to house more people affordably here in Grey County. So I think this report goes a long way to do that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Other comments or questions? I will go to Councillor Keaveney and then we'll go to Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and Liz, what an amazing report. Thank you for all of your efforts in this regard. I note through the conversations with the folks at the Institute that I know there's an importance attached to local affordable housing task forces. Some of us have them and some of us don't. And with the exceptional work that's happening at the county and through the Southern Georgian Bay Institute, and in particular the Social Finance Group, I'm wondering if you feel there is still a necessity for each community to have its own task force to be able to contribute locally to the conversation at this level.
Thank you very much, and through you, Madam Warden. So, you know, I think it's important to have a space to have conversations about what we're going to do, bringing in some of this information for learning, translating that into tasks, assigning those tasks to individuals to be completed. I think about everything that the Collingwood Affordable Housing Task Force has achieved over the past number of years, and if you're not familiar, check out their website. They've got a whole lot going on. So, you know, I think there is certainly interest in a function for those committees. I don't know, you know, I think thinking to that idea of the regional coordination and collaboration, perhaps there's a circumstance in the future where we're moving to more of a regional table. I don't necessarily think that will replace the need to have some concerted effort and space to have those conversations locally. But that could be an evolution in the meantime, without kind of that broader coordination table. I do think there's value to those, but of course it's still local discussion with respect to whether you have the resources to put that in place. But yeah, I would say that having that space and making that time to have those conversations would be important to this work at this moment. A lot of it is on that learning edge. So I think creating that space for those conversations makes sense. Thank you.
Councillor Greg?
Thank you, and thanks for the extensive report, Liz. It's a good update. I guess the background to my question, if there is one, but we are just undertaking a new official plan and zoning update in Owen Sound right now. So as part of preparing for that Monday night, I was just running some numbers because we get a lot of advocacy from a certain demographic about the affordable housing initiatives. And everyone seems to fall into a certain, they're retired, they own their own homes, and they're speaking for young people. If you go to a restaurant and you just engage a bunch of young people want the same opportunities that we have. If you talk to them, they want a little bit of yard, maybe their own driveway to pull into. This is what they're wishing for. So in terms of preparing for Monday, you know, if they go out and you just take a look at an average house right now, the starter home, $450,000, they're going to need $425,000 mortgage. You run the numbers in that, which I did. That's $1,102 a month at a $469 rate for 5 years. And over the first 5 years, they paid $100,000 in interest. So when they renew, they still have $375. You put 30% on that, that's $97,000 a year that's needed to sustain that $30,000 payment for their mortgage. And we haven't talked about insurance. We haven't talked about property taxes and the plethora of other costs that come along with that. We need to update our census data. I think the most recent one I see is 21. And in terms of an average or medium household income in Grey County, I think, or Owen Sound, it could be wrong, but they're pretty close, is either $71,000 or $76,000. That's the average household income. Now that's skewed because you're taking in fixed income seniors and so forth. But it's the average young person in our communities is not over $100,000. The data doesn't show that. And when you're working on this, are the efforts only responding to the affordable housing, or do you examine it a little bigger than just the affordable housing component? Because I think in Owen Sound, maybe our numbers were 17% of new apartments were meeting criteria. And if we want to work on behalf of some of the people in the community that just want to have their own house and have that opportunity, when you put a net, like an actual discretionary or disposable income, like after tax, they're like 50% of their income or greater. And we haven't talked about property taxes, insurance, like the essentials yet. So I feel like they're left out. And we're doing a lot of advocating for some of the market that we are needing to meet the need for, and we are building new apartments. But at times I'm afraid we're putting a lot of efforts here, and we're not recognizing that still when you build an apartment, there's probably $300 minimum a month. I know in Owen Sound on $200,000 assessment, they're paying $3,000 a month or a year in property taxes, and everyone has to pay their fair share. So that unit's got, $300 a month, approximately in taxes. It's got utilities. I just got off the phone about a week and a half ago with one of the large builders, and we're talking about every 7 years, they have to budget for appliance replacement. So all these costs have to go into that unit. The general taxpayer can't pick that up. So there's when you were talking about affordable housing, you already get to $1,400 or $1,500 really quickly. And we're talking about the capital needs that have to be put aside to do the renovations and we do that with our own housing here. So we see it. I'm just wondering then, can you speak to how you do interpret those real life costs into your studies. And that missing middle that sometimes is out there, that I feel like the demographics, because all I have to work off is I only have the numbers, the data needs updated, but we have to work off that data and respond to a lot of the segment in their population that just wants that same opportunity that we had.
Thank you, and to you, Madam Warden. Excellent question. Thank you so much for that. So just I'll pick up a couple of the data pieces and then can respond specifically to the question asked. So you're right. So median household income for Grey County is about $78,000 a year. So that is a data set that is amalgamated for both renters and owners. So if you actually split out those populations, the income profiles are very different. So I think median owner data would probably see your household income somewhere closer to about $90,000 a year. Whereas if you're looking across that on a tenant's basis, you can essentially cut that median 78 at 60%. So like I think in Meaford, for example, the median renter income is about $46,000 a year. So I think that's why we're talking so much around kind of the rental component, because the need is very acute. Those numbers really don't work for households with tenant households. But I think you're right that certainly what we're seeing come on in terms of new product for ownership housing, it's quite a bit above in terms of carrying costs, what we would see kind of affordable to that median household, or even households in the 6th and 7th deciles of household income. So we are seeing kind of that expectation. I think there's going to be a lot of work in order for us to deliver on that expectation that the population or the youth coming up would have those same opportunities. The federal government does highlight that in some of their foresight reporting, kind of speaking around the risks to social mobility if we see kind of existing trends going forward. And I think the income side of the equation is definitely something that collectively needs a look, because as you're right, the costs are definitely increasing. You can get to that $1,400 a door very quickly, but the people who are trying to access that housing might have the capacity to pay $8 or $9, even if they're working full time, $1,200 a month. So, you know, I think that really does put a sharp focus on the need to look at that affordable piece. But I definitely take your point, and I think there is work ongoing relating to ownership product and how we can make that more affordable as well. And so there are some emerging models. Some of that is around shared equity mortgages. And so there are tools coming out where you get kind of investment, whether it's through accessing grants or pools of existing equity, and folks are able to kind of offer, it's almost like a second mortgage kind of product to help allow folks to get into that housing that would not find it affordable otherwise. I could definitely share some information around those ownership related tools too, if you'd be interested. I know the folks that are associated with Glassworks, they have a model around some of those affordable mortgages as well. So that one might be of interest to take a look at. So I guess not to go into all of the detail around those models, but just to say that there are some emerging models. Similarly, as we're looking at nonprofit and those philanthropic combined funds to create revenue and opportunity to fund that kind of housing, there are folks working on that ownership piece as well. And it is a very important consideration. Speaking to some of the data that we're looking at, you know, I think where there's been a big question mark, it's like, how do you define that attainable housing, where that missing middle a little bit more. And so I've been working with Meaford staff actually in some back and forth to try and kind of detail that a little bit more. And so that really does kind of get at that, what is affordable in a home ownership context for the most part. And so my hope is that through the housing need assessment, we'll be able to articulate that with a little more clarity in what we mean when we say affordable versus attainable. What is attainable rental, right? So we know affordable, but we're serving to a certain population and certain deciles of household income. What about those renters that are just a little bit above? Because they have constrained options as well, right? So it really is about that full spectrum. But I think the focus on the rental and the deeply affordable is just because that need is so acute, and the cost factors are so challenging to navigate. So I'll perhaps leave that there, but happy to address a follow-up or share additional information if you like.
Yes, certainly whatever kind of follow-up, I think these questions that are being asked by one individual are in the heads of others as well. So I think the more that we share and the more that we can understand that and how we fit into this puzzle of so many different organizations, so many working groups, so many individual municipalities, and you're demonstrating the breadth of knowledge that you have of what's happening elsewhere and how we can bring it home here to Grey County to share as efficiently as possible as well. So thank you for that, offering to do that kind of follow-up. We'll go to Councillor Bordenio.
Thank you, Madam Warden, through you, and thank you, Liz. You answered one of my questions in regards to attainable and affordable. We get that question asked all the time: is affordable social housing, is attainable, even defined by the PPS? We always look to the province for what their definition of attainable is, and is it home ownership or is it home? Or is it rental? Is it 80% of market value? So that I'm glad that you're going down that path. Madam Warden, as in her capacity as mayor, and I met with our largest ratepayers group, I believe it was last week when this report came out. So their question is more around, number one, the fund, and is that strictly for affordable housing? Any thought of introducing that levy into attainable? And number two is, under the CIP, how do you see that collaboration? Because I'm glad you mentioned affordable and attainable housing creation in the two. The collaboration, just in your 1.4 in the CIP comment on page 2, how do you see the tie-in at the regional to the local level on the CIP? If you just extrapolate, that would be very advantageous. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and through you, Madam Warden. So yes, I think that affordable, attainable question has been a pending question. And I know even just within some of the legislation, the province had floated, maybe we would see a definition of attainable coming in regulation. We haven't yet. So maybe they're struggling with that definition too. It's a tricky one because of how the data sets fall. So maybe I'll start with the CIP question first, and then come back to the one around the fund. So with respect to the CIPs, so as it stands right now, we have those documents in place at the local level. Each municipality certainly we've worked from the county template, but we do see some variety at the local level around the programs offered. There's quite a bit of variety around how those plans are resourced. So some municipalities have ongoing annual contributions into funding those programs. Others have kind of a declining balance pot of money they're working from. So there's quite a bit of variety there. With respect to housing programs, there are some examples. Blue Mountains does have a housing-focused CIP as one example locally. But I know elsewhere across the province, there are other housing-focused CIPs. And oftentimes they are looking at a variety of different housing types. Often conversions are addressed within the CIP document. So we see those upper story conversions from office or storage space into rentals. I think the challenge with CIPs is just the scale of the funds that are offered. So we talked about how quickly a developer can get to quite a high cost threshold in unit creation. If we're offering a matching fund grant that maybe maxes out at $2,000 or $3,000 or $5,000 relative to the overall costs, that's a tiny drop in the larger bucket. What I envision here for the go forward is, when we're looking at those plan updates around those housing initiatives in the CIPs, I think that scale consideration needs to be a lens that we're looking through. Obviously, we have the resources that we have to put towards those. But I really am thinking that if we're able to kind of focus on the gaps within our particular community for those CIPs and offering kind of a greater amount towards those applications to make a bit of an oomph to those projects, that could have some benefit. With respect to a county CIP, with or we can have some conversation around what we might like to look at focusing on with that. In the CIPs right now, the tax incremental equivalent grant is one of the tools that does actually hit that scale. We have been delivering that in partnership at the county level too for our component of tax increases. And so that idea of, is there an alignment between a potential future county CIP and those local CIPs? Maybe we're looking to stack them. Maybe we're looking to slightly tool them a little bit differently so that we're looking at different gaps. So perhaps the county CIP focuses on deeply affordable and the local CIPs focus on near market. I think there's that opportunity to have further discussion around how we might tool those to align together. But ultimately, I do think they should be aligned together if we are looking to develop a county CIP. And then with respect to the fund, so my understanding, and I think Anne-Marie Shaw is available if there are more detailed questions as well. But to date, my understanding is that the fund has very much focused around most vulnerable population. And so if you look at the projects that have been funded as are listed in the report, they are largely supportive, transitional, and deeply affordable partnered projects. My understanding is that was the intended focus for that fund. So I think if there was a discussion around other projects, that would be a broader discussion to be had. I don't know, I think that if you want to speak to that, you think we should ask Anne-Marie to join us.
Go ahead, Director Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and thank you, Liz, and certainly turned over to Anne-Marie if there is anything. Just to Councillor Bordignon's points and to some of Councillor Gregg's points, I'd note that a lot of what you see at council and a lot of sort of the community services portfolio, as Liz has mentioned, is those most vulnerable and the deepest need. But I will say there's other things that County Council has taken leadership on to support those attainable products, and the one that I'd point to is the development charges exemption agreements that we enter into for rental housing. And so 4 years ago-ish, the county was seeing a distinct lack of rental housing being created, and County Council opted to empower staff to enter into these development charges exemption agreements, whereby if somebody is providing purpose-built rental and if they maintain that purpose-built rental for a period of time, then they don't need to pay those county development charges. And we have heard positive feedback from developers in a number of our municipalities that said this is one of the things that really tipped the balance to helping choose to develop in municipality X in Grey County. And those development charge exemption agreements for purpose-built rental housing don't come with any affordability threshold. So in some cases, they wouldn't meet the provincial definition of affordable, but are probably in that slightly more nebulous definition that we don't have on paper of attainable in that regard. And we've definitely seen a spike in rental housing being built since then. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And do we have Director Shaw? Director Shaw, is there anything else you wanted to add just while there's a pause and questions from council?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Warden. The fund itself is fund from the 1% levy, but it's also from the proceeds of our Westmount sales. So we do have some older housing built in the 1950s that we are selling off and using the proceeds of that to provide seed funding for other housing. When the Affordable Housing Fund was developed by our task force on affordable housing, it was directed towards our most vulnerable. We do have a number of projects in line waiting for funding. And so that's where we have directed the funding from this point forward.
Okay, thank you for that background. And I'm just looking around. I don't see any further hands up here nor online. So given us lots to think about, and I think there is an appetite to hear further from you in terms of follow-up on this. And also, as there are new players in the loop as well, with like the great news that comes from the Community Foundation, Grey Bruce, to be able to jump into that economic sustainable aspect of it. How can we make it work? So I think there's an appetite among the lower tiers and the various different working groups, et cetera, to be able to keep working together as has been established, and to help walk through this. What is the difference? I'm really glad that you did highlight, though, that no matter what definition we land on with attainable, that if we're helping workforce housing, we're also helping deep needs housing and vice versa. And, you know, and remembering that workforce housing goes beyond, it's also what seniors can afford when they're out of the workforce, but they'll have varying levels of what they can afford to live in as well. So I know we all see it. We're all just trying to navigate through this together. So thank you. Okay, it has been moved and seconded to receive for information, so I'll just ask, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you to all of the staff who have provided that information. Okay, so that takes care of item 7B. So we are now going to move back to the item that was pulled from the consent, right, Madam Clerk? Item 6D. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, there's been a request for a break. I'm sorry, I was trying to race through thinking, you know, thinking ahead to the fact that we have our agenda items later this afternoon as well. Well thought. Yes, let's take a break for 10 minutes and reconvene at 10 to 12. Thank you. Okay, Committee of the Whole members, we are approaching 10:02. Okay, so I see our online members are back here as well as we are here in the chamber, and we are continuing on with the agenda of our committee, the whole session. We are at item 6D, the item that was pulled from the consent agenda. And first of all, to get it onto the floor, it is recommended that report PDR CW 6725 be received and that the application for minor exemption under the county's forest management bylaw for part lot 31 concession 5 geographic township of Artemisia, now in the municipality of Grey Highlands, municipally known as 213-159 30 Side Road, be approved. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? It is moved by Councillor Mackey and seconded by Councillor Keaveney. It's now on the floor for discussion, and we have Sarah Johnson is going to provide some explanation, and then we will hear committee of the whole questions.
Thank you, Warden. I don't have a formal presentation, but essentially what we have here is an application for minor exemption to clear a young plantation that was not successfully growing, and so the applicant made the request to clear those fields up. That was supported by our bylaw enforcement officer as well as our ecology staff.
Okay, thank you for that context. So with that, then we'll open to the floor. Councillor McKay, I'll look to you as you had requested that we pull it.
Thank you, Warden. No, I think you pretty well answered my question. My question was because it doesn't really explain it. It sounded like a clear cut to me. And I was going to ask the question too, is this a plantation? And if this plantation is ready to harvest, fine and dandy. But now that I hear that it didn't really take to begin with, it's just a bunch of scrub brush, I guess now. So I have no problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that's the answer that's provided for that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then thank you, Ms. Johnson. That seems to have sufficed. So I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you again. All right, so now we are going to head into closed session for two different matters. It's recommended that the Committee of the Whole does now go into closed session pursuant to Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss, number one, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local and board employees with regards to staff succession planning. And the second item will be a position plan or procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board with regards to Georgian College. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? It's moved by Councillor Patterson and seconded by Councillor McKay. And any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, that motion is carried. So we will now ready the room for the closed session.